What are some very creepy facts? Female mummies in ancient Egypt were always more decomposed than their male counterparts. They discovered that this was because male bodies were embalmed a lot sooner than female bodies. Female bodies were kept at the family home until they started to decompose in order to avoid necrophilia at the embalmers. After getting stung by a cone snail, you don't feel the sting for a little bit. There is no antivenom and it can be lethal. Treatment is basically keeping the victim alive until the venom wears off. One reason that crows and ravens are associated with death is because they would often follow armies as they marched to battle. Being both carrion birds and extremely intelligent, they realized that a large group of armed men marching on one direction meant that there would be a tasty meal of corpses to eat soon afterwards. Blobfish in its natural habitat looks like a normal fish, but it lives so deep underwater that it doesn't use a normal gas bladder to keep itself balanced. Instead, it has a spongy skin that is slightly less dense than water, which becomes damaged and bloated when fishermen bring it up too quickly. It's not really the ugliest fish. It has just experienced something worse than one of us being thrown into outer space. Between sea level and space, there's 1 atmospheric pressure of difference. Between sea level and 2,000 feet underwater, their upper limit, there's 60 atmospheres of difference. Imagine being taken 5,000 miles under the ocean, having your skull be crushed by the immense pressure, then being called the ugliest motherfucker alive. Space aliens. Pick up humans and violently yank them into space humans. Explode space aliens. Haha, look at their stupid faces. Here's a comparison pic. Link *, holy cow, thanks for the awards. And wow, like 50 people drew a connection to Made in Abyss. Never even heard of it before, but maybe I'll check it out now. OMG, now I feel terrible for them. When you happen to be murdered, there is only an about 40% chance that your murderer will be found and punished. Edit. A lot of people are asking which country I'm referring to. This is a worldwide approximation. There are obviously countries with higher percentages of solved murder cases, but also some with even lower. For example, in the US there is a 40% chance to get away with murder, in Mexico 90% to get away with it. Organized crime. The overall amount of crimes in that area and war plays a huge role in this. Locusts aren't a type of animal, they're a condition some grasshoppers experience. Many species of grasshoppers become locusts when they're too crowded. Literally, their legs rubbing together triggers the change. Once grasshoppers start to swarm, they will join up with others, physically grow larger, change color, and eat basically anything they find. Most of a swarm will be born as part of the swarm. Increased mating is part of swarm behavior. This is why it often seems like locust swarms come out of nowhere. Edit. Whoa, this blew up. Thank you for the awards, kind strangers. Unfortunately, I'm not an expert and my Wikipedia-level understanding was super lacking for a post with this many eyes on it. Here are some corrections that have been brought to my attention in the comments. A very small percent of grasshopper species swarm, and not all those that do undergo physical changes. Your garden variety grasshopper is probably harmless. Especially if you're in Na where there's only one species that swarms and it's super rare. Grasshoppers who do swarm are often called locusts even when not swarming. It's less of a grasshoppers catch locust situation and more of a there are a subset of grasshoppers called locusts who swarm. Thank you to everyone who pointed out mistakes in my original. If you begin to display symptoms of rabies, you will go crazy and die. There's no cure. Your brain will slowly melt until you're dead. Crocodiles can gallop like a horse. I don't like knowing this, so I am cursing you people with this knowledge as well. Fortunately, alligators cannot. So that's how you tell them apart. Yeah, but now I'm confused how to tell a horse and crocodile apart. Serial killer Richard Chase took any unlocked door as an invitation to come inside. In the US, if someone is kidnapped and not found within about a day, then there is a 97% chance the kidnapped person is dead. Men who are hanged get a death erection, known as rigor erectus. Pretty awkward for the family, I assume. There's a parasite that enters a fish's mouth, eats the tongue and replaces itself as the fish's new tongue. As a fish, there isn't a cure and it sucks. I keep saying stuff I don't mean to say. A black mamba is the fastest snake, which can slither at a speed of 12.5 miles an hour, 20 kilometers per hour. They have neurotoxins which are fast-acting. The venom shuts down the nervous system and paralyzes the victim. Its venom is able to kill 10 people and it repeatedly bites. To add on to this, there is an almost 100% kill rate and can kill in 20 minutes. Tarantulas can swim. It wasn't until 1987 that the American Academy of Pediatrics declared it unethical to operate on newborns without anesthesia. Until surprisingly recently, the medical community felt it would be dangerous to give infants anesthesia and/or believed that they didn't feel pain. Link. If you live to age 70, you will have shed around 105 pounds of skin. Edit. Because most seem confused. I mean over time, not all at once. That would be terrible. Cool. At least there's one thing to look forward to when I'm 70. Can't wait to freak everyone out when it happens. When creating the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland, they couldn't create skeletons that looked realistic enough, so they used real human skeletons. They've since removed all of them except one. Ducks become cannibals due to boredom of all fucking reasons. They can only be stopped by cutting off their mouths. It's finally my moment. It was once discovered that a fir tree was growing inside a human body. Artyom Sidorkin went to the doctors suspecting something wrong with his lungs. The doctors thought they were dealing with a tumor, but turns out he had inhaled a fir tree seed which had sprouted and had begun growing in his lungs. Edit. Wow, so Grey's Anatomy is a popular show. I am sure this was the inspiration for that episode. Cockroaches have been recorded eating human flesh, both living and dead, as well as fingernails, eyelashes, feet, and hands. The American cockroach and German cockroach are more likely to bite humans than other species. Pretty sure Australian cockroaches do something equally creepy, but as an Australian who plans to sleep at some point in the future, I'm not going to Google it. So we are the creepy fact to cockroaches. Nice. We're the creepy fact to most life on Earth. There was a speech made for Apollo 11 if they were to die on the Moon. Side fact: if it were to happen, people would look up at the Moon knowing that crew died there, and their bodies would rest there till the end of time. Not forgetting that the ocean is somewhat like this. Many people died there too, at the very depths of the sea. Also, their bodies would not have decomposed because the Moon has no oxygen. Instead, they would become mummies. Ancient Egyptians hate him. People don't take their anti-malarial drugs when they travel because they hear bad stories about the side effects, and they see native people in the areas living okay without taking pills every day. The truth is, populations native to malaria-endemic areas have all passed through pretty intense natural selection for survival and have a host of genes that prevent them from dying or suffering the other worst effects. Also, most of the resistance is built up over time. This is why it's most common for children to die rather than adults. Whatever people have heard about the side effects of the anti-malarials, getting it is so much worse. I, fortunately, have never had it, but I study it as part of my work, and people have told me about having it and they all say the same thing: it is so awful you can't believe you're even still alive. It comes in cycles, usually 48 hours, and each cycle is agonizing and brings you the brink of death. Sometimes it takes you, sometimes it spares you for another few hours until it starts again. And there are forms that, even if you clear the infection with drugs, it still remains dormant in your system and can come back at any time. Edit. I don't want to freak people out too much. There are drug combinations that can kill every stage of the parasite as long as there is no drug resistance. It's quite common after you die to burp a lot as you have more gas buildup. Dead bodies can also sit up on their own sometimes. Also, if a pregnant lady dies, sometimes the gas buildup in the body as it decomposes forcefully pushes the baby out. Thanks, I hate it. I also hate the post-mortem baby bazooka. Most people smell different when they're awake. That's my favorite thing to whisper. Mount Everest is covered in frozen corpses because removing them is very unsafe and time-consuming. They are easily viewed from the climbing routes and some are used as trail markers. Imagine being totally aware of someone performing CPR but you physically can't move or respond. Well, that's what happens when you get bitten by a blue-ringed octopus. You have approximately 6 minutes between being bitten and someone starting CPR to keep your heart and lungs functioning to ensure you survive, all whilst being totally aware of what is happening to you. Neurotoxins are fun. The really creepy thing about this is one story of a guy who got stung, got CPR performed on him and survived, but went blind because he was lying on his back, eyes open, unable to blink because of the paralysis, staring into the sun. Imagine lying there, unable to move, unable to communicate, the sun slowly burning out your eyes and you can't shut them. Imagine lying there, unable to move, unable to communicate, the sun slowly burning out your eyes and you can't shut them. No, I don't think I will. There are upwards of 300 active serial killers in the world. Seems low, honestly. 300 is a lot, but out of 8 billion? Famous last words though. Known to be active. Think about how many people go missing and are never found. The part that's insane to me is that people like BTK and Willie Pickton were caught post-2000, but were active for a long time decades prior. To me that means there have to be some people out there today that have a high body count and haven't been caught yet. Hearing is the last thing to go after you die. You just might hear the paramedics and firefighters call off CPR. A single tiger has killed over 436 people in India. How many has a married tiger killed? Human brains when they dry out smell like cat piss, that stinky ammonia smell. Worked in an for 17 years in court. Had a gunshot to the head come in and a chunk fell onto my shoe and didn't notice. While driving home was like, WTF, did my cat piss in the car or something? Went to take my shoes off and there was edit for all you people with morbid curiosity. Fresh brains look like cream cheese mixed with strawberry jam, edit 2. No, they died. Translife harvested organs. Elmer McCurdy was a failed Old West outlaw. His preserved body was put on display in a traveling carnival, and years later he was eventually assumed to be a mannequin until he was used on set for the TV show The $6 Million Man. His arm accidentally fell off during the shoot, revealing bone and muscle and that he was a corpse, not a mannequin. Sometimes an Amber Alert causes kidnappers to panic and kill the kid immediately. Edit. For those that don't know what an Amber Alert is. Link. Wow, this got way more attention than I expected. This is very rare, and most of the time Amber Alerts are issued for kids taken by an estranged family member where the kid is in no danger. Amber Alerts have also saved hundreds of lives. For those that keep asking for a source. Link. Sorry for bumming y'all out. Sense of impending doom is an actual symptom that often precedes your death, usually in cases of heart attack. Very creepy for some of us that suffer from anxiety and panic attacks to begin with. Both share that symptom. Edit. As many of you are pointing out, yes, I used preclude incorrectly. Half of your favorite 70s rock stars had 14-year-old girlfriends. Edit. Wow. I have been a Redditor for over 8 years. My previous highest comment was less than 200 upvotes, and I finally get to say it. RIP inbox. Edit 2. Yes, I realize your favorite rockstar might not have been, be a pedo, creep, but I was so disappointed to find out how many were. I hope society is moving past where this is seen as remotely okay. But then again, people still work with Roman Polanski and he was actually convicted of drugging and raping a 13-year-old. Fuck him. 13 to 14-year-olds are children. Protect children, don't sexualize them. It's not that hard. Edit 3. Enjoying the artistic work of bad people is an interesting issue. I still listen to lots of the music in question, but I don't think I would if these were active artists and it was known. I wasn't alive in the 70s. And I certainly don't support them financially, well, any more than Spotify plays, so I guess I do to some degree. In Polanski's case, I have seen some of his older movies, but never paid for one. I wouldn't support him financially in any way, and I wouldn't watch anything he makes at this point. I think it was Aziz Ansari who had an interesting bit asking the audience who still listens to R. Kelly. Not a lot of hands. Then later in the set asked who still listens to Michael Jackson. Lots of hands and cheers. I think there is an issue of perceived guilt and also of artistic quality that plays into people's feelings. Regardless, I don't believe you should actively support known predators. The stonefish, an incredibly venomous fish living in tropical waters mostly off the coast of Australia and parts of US, can cause pain that only escalates with time. Eventually the pain will subside, but even after the barb is removed, patients have reported increasing pain 12+ hours later. Without antivenom or denaturing the venom with excessive heat, the pain builds and builds until the patients request euthanasia. Its spines hold the venom, hidden in its dorsal fins. Aboriginals living around the Great Barrier Reef have corroborees, large gatherings, and will during these gatherings hold reenactments of people being stung by this monster, for what I assume is either amusement, learning, or both. Edit. Corroboree clarification. Edit 2. Pain does eventually end. Reminded of Suicide Tree where pain does not. Terrible leaves for toilet paper. Thank you for all the upvotes. So glad one of my parents' horror stories from Australia is so well received. There's a spider that gives you a 3h long boner, before you die from its bite. Edit. The boner it gives you is very painful. If it bites you, you might as well dick slap it into next week. Die Hard. CNN has had a pre-recorded broadcast from the 90s which they will premiere during the end of the world. They used real corpses in the 1982 film Poltergeist, for the ending pool scene. The actress did not know until after the scene was filmed. Since 2007, at least 20 detached human feet have been found on the coasts of the Salish Sea. From Atlas Obscura by Foer, Thuras, and Morton. Necropants, reader's discretion advised. In Iceland. A long-ass time ago, 17th c. Friends followed complex rules to obtain a dead man's skin to turn them into pants. You had to get permission from the dude to use his skin after he kicked the bucket. You would then wait until burial formalities concluded. You would rob the shit out of your buddy's grave. You would cut the waist and peel the bottom half of the body off in one perfect flay. You would then steal a coin from a poor widow, preferably your bud's. Place the coin in the scrotum of the necropants to attract cosmic shit, specifically more wealth in life, and leave the groin full of coins at all times. Pass that shit down to your kid. Fun fact. The Museum of Icelandic Sorcery and Witchcraft has a pair on display for all of us sickos to gawk at. Edit. Asterisk steal a coin additional. You are right, it's folklore. What is creepy is that they dedicated a museum to all of this fucking metal folklore and bothered to create a replica of a very disturbing idea. I just thought the storytelling would be fun, and lo and behold, I had some amazing comments come from it. Some species of spiderlings eat their mothers alive. The astronauts aboard the Space Shuttle Challenger most likely didn't die until they hit the water miles below the initial explosion. There are more creatures in your mouth than there are people on Earth. I once read that you should play dead if a bear attacks you, unless they start licking your wounds because that means they plan to eat you. That still haunts me to this day. Edit. If it helps, I'm pretty sure I was reading about grizzly bears at the time during one of my fevered grizzly man rabbit holes. If it's black, fight back. If it's brown, grizzly, lie down. And if it's white, say good night. If it's panda, casual bystander. Edit. My first Reddit silver. Thanks matey. Pandas of all things. If it's gummy, put it in your tummy. After raping his blindfolded victims, the Golden State Killer would be super duper quiet and pretend like he was gone, and right when the poor victims would start to move towards the phone or try to untie themselves, he would scare the fucking shit out of them. Pigs will eat anything. There are stories of pigs entering farmhouses and eating newborn humans. More than 7,000 people die annually due to the doctor's bad handwriting. Edit. I didn't expect this to blow up so much, so if you upvoted my comment, thanks so much. The human body can be drained of blood in 8.6 seconds given adequate vacuuming systems. Not everyone can afford a Dyson. The men of the ship Essex, the true event that inspires the story, Moby Dick, avoided islands after being shipwrecked for fear of cannibals. The islands were settled and landing there would have brought salvation to the survivors. Ironically, because of this bypass, the men ran out of food and were forced to eat each other for survival. In the Czech Republic, there is a church called the Sedlík Ossuary that has decorations made entirely of human bones. This happened because there were too many people in the cemetery to bury everyone, and the church leaders claimed that if their bones became part of the church, it only made them closer to God. Nice propaganda spin there, guys. Anything to do with parasitic wasps? Jeffrey Dahmer tried to make sex zombies out of some of his victims by drilling holes in their heads while they were still alive and pouring acid into the holes. That's not how you make zombies. Speaking of Dahmer, I believe one of his victims, a 14-year-old boy, escaped from him naked and ran to a police station. As he was drugged and confused, the police returned him to Dahmer. This is true. Dahmer had actually injected acid into his skull and drugged him with sleeping pills. Yet he still escaped after Dahmer fell asleep. Dahmer convinced the police that they were lovers and that the victim was 19 and was drunk and they had had an argument. The boy was obviously still in a stupor and was only speaking Lao. Not only did the police walk Dahmer and the boy back to Dahmer's apartment, they actually noted a foul smell and went into the apartment to investigate. There was a rotting corpse in Dahmer's bedroom and they simply did not look in there before leaving. A bubble caused by false vacuum decay could be expanding through our galaxy right now, destroying everything it touches. And we wouldn't even know about it, because it travels at the speed of light. Edit. To all the people who I've given existential dread with this comment, I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking of it as scary as much as just creepy. And as others have pointed out already, it's hypothetical at this point. So try not to work about it. Every year you live through the future anniversary of your death. Edit. Didn't expect this to blow up. Now people hate me. Not if I die on February 29th, you son of a bitch. Eventually there will be more dead people on Facebook than alive. Wow, thanks for the award. The origins of vampires as we know them. Basically your body has gas buildup when you die. I'm not medically inclined enough to explain why. Basically the gas has to escape somehow, and so it would pass through the vocal cords in the throat. This creates the low moan that makes the body sound as if it was in pain. The people back then had no idea what was happening and random bodies would just start moaning in pain. And thus they believed that the bodies were rising from the dead. And when stabbed, the gas escaped otherwise. Thus leading to the belief that the only way to stop a vampire was to stab a dead body in the chest. This also led to a lot of strange burials, i.e. the man that was buried in a stone wall to prevent him from rising from the dead. I can't really blame them. I'd be freaked out too if a corpse suddenly started to make sounds. Creepy for some, but I find stuff like that fascinating. There's documentaries on YT talking about it. I highly recommend them. Edit. Words cannot describe how happy I am that so many of you provided additional facts. I'm having a blast reading your comments. I don't know much about this topic, and so it's great to have a place where more information and leads are constantly being shared. This is the documentary that I saw. Link, but there's a ton of others out there with more, possibly better, information. If you have any recommendations yourselves, please link them in your comment. I'd love to see them. Vampires don't moan. They say blah blah blah. An elephant masturbates by slapping its penis on itself. Don't we all? Not creepy. I also masturbate by slapping my penis on an elephant. According to Abe Lincoln's bodyguard Crook, he said Lincoln had a dream about his own assassination 3 nights in a row before he was killed. Crook told Lincoln not to go on that fateful night, and all Lincoln said was goodbye, Crook, before he went to the play. This was very odd as Lincoln always said, good night not goodbye. Unborn babies have a layer of hair around them, to regulate body temperature, called lanugo. They shed it, eat it, then poop it out after birth. Edit. Wow, thanks for the upvotes. I was trying to get some comment karma so I could post my GoFundMe on a separate Reddit. Now I can. People who are anorexic can also develop lanugo. It's the body's last-ditch effort to keep itself warm enough to function after it has lost its fat layers. You're more likely to be murdered by someone you know than a stranger. And the child molester is much more likely to already be in your house than lurking at the playground. If you stifle a sneeze, there's a chance you can damage organs in your head, including eye blood vessels, rupturing your eardrums, and possibly rupture a brain aneurysm. Which means there's a small chance stifling a sneeze can kill you. Better to be the loud ass with the sneeze that can be heard around the world than a dead loud ass cause someone told you to stifle that sneeze. This might not be very creepy, but there are no laws against cannibalism in the USA. You might be arrested for something else, but not for cannibalism. Edit. I would like to clarify that I am in no way a practitioner of law. I don't know the specifics of what you would be arrested for. This was just a random fact floating in my brain. Edit 2. Most of the USA lacks these laws. It seems Idaho had some incidents, leading to them being the only state with anti-cannibalism laws. Thank you for informing me. Y'all know who you are. Since 1900, over 13,000 people have been murdered by serial killers in the USA. Your brain can play tricks on you to make you see monsters in the mirror, called the Troxler effect. The Troxler effect is an optical illusion that affects how you perceive things, both visually and mentally. The smell of a freshly cut lawn is actually a chemical distress signal released from the grass as it's cut. You're smelling the souls and screaming of the innocent. A fire whirl can go as big as an EF3 tornado. In 1923, such happened in Japan during an earthquake. The son of a bitch killed 38,000 people in less than 15 minutes. They got hit by a tornado that was on fucking fire in the middle of an earthquake. That caused a tsunami, all while surrounded by firestorms. That's some sci-fi super storm shit. Jesus Christ. Chicken are so dumb they can accidentally peck each other, and if one of them feels meat in the other chicken, then all chickens will peck that chicken to death and eat it. Albert Fish, the serial killer, loved eating poop. Edit. Didn't expect Uncle Albert's peanut butter to blow up like this. Check out the podcast Timesuck by Dan Cummins. He's got an episode about Albert Fish and goes in depth about other serial killers in other episodes. I feel like that's the least creepy thing about Albert Fish. Either somebody knows where Malaysia Flight 370 went missing to, or nobody does. Both are equally terrifying. Most dust is made of dead human skin and microscopic bug shit. Edit. Also living dust mites. Edit. Apparently it's a myth that most dust is mostly made of all this stuff, and a quick Wikipedia search tells me that there is some human skin cells and hair but very little. Our graves will be reused for someone else unless we are memorable, which in the 99% of the time we won't be, so we better start thinking of badass ways we can be buried. If we're cremated, then forget about being remembered past one generation unless you name a park or building after yourself. This is why I'm going to be turned into a tree upon death. That should stand the test of time a bit better, and it feels more natural to become one with nature. Roach are natural burrowers. They also can't walk backwards. There have been cases where they burrow into people's ears but cannot get themselves out. In 2015, a young woman began to have headaches. They discovered that she had a brain tumor, and when the doctors removed it, they were shocked to see that it was a lump resembling skin that contained bone, teeth, and hair. But this was no parasitic twin. The mass was called a teratoma, or monstrous tumor. When the woman was an embryo, some cell tissue fell off and ended up where wasn't supposed to be, her brain. It then developed hair and teeth while the rest of her grew as normal. Edit. Holy fucking shit. Over 5.0k upvotes. Thank you guys so much. It's less of a fact and more of an uncomfortable truth, but it would be very easy for a determined individual to break into your place of residence and kill you at just about any time that you aren't expecting them. Even worse is that if they do it cleanly and have no relationship with you, they stand a decent chance of getting away with it. Edit. For clarity, I said determined individual because most normal locks, dogs, weapons, walls, fences, cameras, lights, etc. will be enough to deter thieves or just some whack job. The point of my comment is to say that if someone genuinely wants to get you, either they will or they'll die trying, and odds are, if you aren't expecting it, the first thing is what will happen.